In Venezuela, the electoral drill ahead of the regional and national elections of May 25th concluded with positive results. President Putin met his Palestinian counterpart Mahmoud Abbas Saturday in the framework of the latter's visit to Moscow during Victory Day celebrations. And the Indian and Pakistani government reached a ceasefire deal after weeks of serious military confrontations. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. In Venezuela, the electoral drill ahead of the regional and national elections of May 25th concluded. The National Electoral Council summoned citizens to participate in the democratic exercise with the objective of familiarizing voters with the system. This drill allowed the testing of the voting machines, checking the effectiveness of the transmission media, and evaluating the technical operation of logistics of the procedure. For this purpose, the National Electoral Council set up a total of 1,187 voting centers nationwide with the intention of strengthening the democratic process in Venezuela.
This is one of the usual days the electoral system of Venezuela gets us used to, a day characterized by the tremendous technical efficiency, the huge preparedness capacity to conduct a trustworthy election of the electoral system of Venezuela. This poll attaches great importance. It has very special features, as this election is two elections in one. We'll be electing the National Assembly of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, a national assembly that must walk side by side with the great changes the country needs to reach prosperity, mostly to preserve tranquility and peace. That's what the Venezuelan people wants. The Venezuelan people just wants to be at peace.
In the state of Carabobo, dozens of voters mobilized to take part in the electoral process ahead of the regional and national elections of May 25th.
Venezuela is showing that we are democratic because in reality we Venezuelans are used to this form of revolution because it is a revolution and, well, here is the proof that there is democracy in Venezuela. We are going out to vote. They called on us and here we are, in the front row supporting this whole electoral process.
In this context, authorities of the Venezuelan National Electoral Council went to the Andres Bello School where they supervised the progress of the electoral drill in preparation for the regional and national elections. Authorities affirmed that the May 25th elections will have more than 15,000 voting centers and 27,000 polling stations. On the other hand, they informed that the country has an advance of 47% of audits to the electoral system, which is a guarantee of transparency that is of interest to the organizations participating with political purposes. And Venezuelan participants in the parliamentary elections drill reported the voting process is quite smooth and easy.
The process has been quite smooth, quite participative, from all the circuits of the Candelaria parish. We believe it must be a success in order to achieve our objectives, which is the popular participation of all the Venezuelan people regarding the objectives of the Venezuelan revolution.
It's very easy. They just ask for your ID card. They send it to the machine and in the machine, they put you in the ballot box. They take your ID card, your fingerprint and that's it. That's quick. I don't think it didn't take me a minute.
The president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, honored the Soviet soldiers of the Second World War in the city of St. Petersburg, Russia. From the Memorial Cemetery in St. Petersburg, the Venezuelan president participated in a wreath-laying ceremony to honor the fallen soldiers of the Second World War. During the event, President Nicolás Maduro highlighted the heroism of the Soviet Union in the fight against the fascist forces in Europe. In the next few hours, the head of state is expected to meet with Russian authorities as part of his agenda in the framework of Victory Day.
Humanity is fighting against the resurgence of the Nazis, of the fascists. We defend the right to peace, the right to the future, to the coexistence of peoples. It is almost impossible to find an example like that of Stalingrad, of Leningrad, and that of the Soviet people who went from here to Berlin to liberate Europe, to liberate humanity.
Russian President Vladimir Putin met with Vietnam Secretary General To Lam to strengthen diplomatic ties between the two nations. During the meeting, Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed his gratitude to the Vietnamese General Secretary for participating in the celebration of the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War. Putin also emphasized that Russia and Vietnam have a long-standing friendship, which today is successfully developing in all directions and receives regular support through diplomatic channels of communication. To Lam, for his part, noted that Victory Day is a triumph of a democratic, progressive, and peace-loving people, pointing out that this victory destroyed fascism, colonialism, and imperialism, and brought prosperity to humanity. President Putin also met his Palestinian counterpart Mahmoud Abbas this Saturday in the framework of the latter's visit to Moscow during Victory Day celebrations. The leader of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, appealed to Russian President Vladimir Putin over U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal to establish a U.S. administration in the besieged Gaza Strip. During bilateral talks in the Kremlin, Putin also criticized Israel's renewed blockade of Gaza, saying it was exacerbating the humanitarian crisis.
Russia traditionally pays particular attention to its relations with Palestine. Our peoples are tied by a strong friendship. We are following the tragic events within the Palestine-Israel conflict with concern and empathy, which have taken the lives of more than 51,000 people. Tension is rising on the west bank of the Jordan River. The Gaza Strip is experiencing a humanitarian catastrophe in the strongest possible sense. Unfortunately, the situation is getting only more serious. I just mentioned the humanitarian crisis and catastrophe. Of course, this is only deepened by decisions to forbid even humanitarian support and the supply of the most vital products and electricity to the Gaza Strip, which raises particular concern.
In this regard, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas rejected President Trump's statements that a U.S. administration should be established in the Gaza Strip.
We reject the displacement of the Palestinian people abroad. As President Trump said when he announced that the people of Gaza must be displaced so that a new French Riviera can be built in their place. This is nonsense, of course, and we cannot accept it. We have therefore rejected it categorically and informed them that this is not acceptable to us. We have also heard recently that there is an idea to establish an American administration in Gaza. We categorically reject this and have informed them of this. Neither the Americans nor anyone else has the right to be in the Gaza Strip. We must return to the Gaza Strip, and we are capable of governing this region with justice, fairness, and love.
We now have a first break coming up. First, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English. You'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Palestine, UN agencies rejected Israel's plan to control humanitarian aid in Gaza, along with the accusation of diversion used by the Zionists to justify their initiative. Thousands of families in Gaza are in serious danger due to a severe famine caused by the blockade imposed by the Zionist regime. This blockade has prevented the entry of food, water, and medicine, bringing the humanitarian crisis to a critical state. In this way, Israel has completely hindered the flow of essential supplies to the Strip since March 2nd, despite the systematic denunciations of the international community. Also, citizens in the east of the city of Han Yunis demanded the opening of the border crossing points and the entry of food for the little ones in the Gaza Strip. And after several weeks of serious military confrontations, the Indian and Pakistani government reached a ceasefire deal thanks to the mediating role played by Saudi Arabia and Turkey and the US. Such conflict had bursted out by a gun massacre on tourists last April in India, whose mastermind culprits were allegedly from Pakistan, but rooted in decades-old hostilities. Afterwards, both sides have mounted military operations, including missile attacks. As a result, dozens of civilians have been hit to death. Meanwhile, neighboring countries as Saudi Arabia and Turkey decided to act as mediators alongside the US. Subsequently, the two rival nations reached a first ceasefire deal to be enforced this Saturday, while peace negotiations are still underway, which next meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 12th.
The Director General of Military Operations of Pakistan called the Director General of Military Operations of India at 15:35 hours earlier this afternoon. It was agreed between them that both sides would stop all firing and military action on land and in the air and sea with effect from 1700 hours Indian Standard Time today. Instructions have been given on both sides to give effect to this understanding. The Directors General of Military Operations will talk again on the 12th of May at 1200 hours. Thank you.
The government of Nigeria reimbursed $3.4 billion of emergency funding it received from the International Monetary Fund in April 2020. Authorities detailed that the financial assistance had been used to address the economic challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. However, despite full repayment, Nigeria will be required to make annual payments of $30 million in special drawing rights. The repayment on the loan proved the administration's commitment to meet its international financial obligations and enhance its credibility with global financial institutions. In Spain, a fire at a factory producing chemical products for swimming pools has led to the evacuation of residents of 5 coastal towns in the provinces of Barcelona and Tarragona. The factory, which stores about 70 tons of chlorine, has generated a toxic cloud that has forced the Civil Protection of Catalonia to issue an alert to the residents of several cities. The authorities have advised citizens to stay indoors, close windows and doors, and avoid the use of air conditioning. Firefighters of the Generalitat have indicated that the fire is in the stabilization phase and have managed to limit its spread to all nearby warehouses. And the world celebrates Migratory Bird Day as every second Saturday in May. The United Nations had set such date to commemorate the collaboration between the Convention on Migratory Species and the African-Eurasian Migratory Waterbird Agreement. Furthermore, the United Nations established the Migratory Bird Day to raise people's awareness of the importance of preserving the bird's ecosystem. This year's campaign urged the international community to work together to create and conserve habitats and to join efforts to reduce pollution. Now, have our second break coming up before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break, we'll be back with more. Welcome back. The Russian Neft state-owned oil corporation has been working side by side with the Cuban Cupet state-owned company since the signing a 25-year oil deal in 2011 for the breakthrough of production areas in northern Boca de Jaruco, Cuba. The Russian company dedicated to exploring and operating oil fields has contributed to the quadruple of annual oil production of that site over the past 5 years. Nowadays, the aforementioned enterprise have invested some $108 million to drill 30 new wells in Boca de Jaruco. Moreover, experts advanced Cuban oil reserves were around 124 million barrels of proven crude oil. In this regard, they expect to find out more undiscovered offshore deposits in North Cuban Basin. Therefore, professionals of the Boca de Jaruco joint venture harnessed cutting-edge technologies to pull out crude oil.
It's a very heavy oil that not being able to be extracted rising to the surface because it's too heavy and too dense.
And in Brazil, the landless movement's national fair for the agrarian reform enters its third day. From Sao Paulo, correspondent Ignacio Lemos with the details.
Greetings, studios. This is the first day of the Agrarian Reform National Fair of the Landless Workers Movement, the MST. So far, 1,500 field workers have come here with their agroecological production from 23 states plus the Federal District of Brasilia. There are tons and tons of very diverse food in a contrast sample with the prevailing production models of agribusiness in Brazil, where production is concentrated in export commodities. Here, the MST shows that it is possible to produce food to feed the Brazilian population in a context of increase in the price of food. On the other hand, during today's day, ministers from the government of Lula da Silva will arrive. They have also done so yesterday. There are requests from the MST to settle the 65,000 peasants without land who are often on the banks of the roads, who are often resisting the rain, under the tarp, waiting for a territory to plant and live. It is not by magic that the MST produces poison-free food to feed the Brazilian population. An agrarian reform is necessary for all of this, and this is the sample brought here by the MST to Sao Paulo, the largest Brazilian city and in South America. We will continue during today's day with this coverage of teleSUR from here, from Sao Paulo, in the Parque de Agua Branca, bringing you all the information about this gigantic fair of agroecology, of resistance, and also of politics that the MST is carrying out. Back to studios.
In El Salvador, the closure of the highway to Los Chorros on the Pan American Highway caused a public transportation strike, revealing the social situation in the country. The paralysis of the public transport service forced President Nayib Bukele to decree free urban bus fares at the closure of the road to the west due to a series of landslides. Since then, bus terminals and bus stops collapsed in the capital, which caused the arrest of transportation managers and repressive actions by the government allegedly to guarantee their operation. Experts point out that these actions taken by the government of El Salvador seek to divert attention from the current social and political situation in the country. And South Korea's political parties are nominating their presidential candidates for the June 3, 2025 election starting this Saturday. Among the candidates, Lee Jae-myung of the Democratic Party made his presidential candidacy official and is emerging as one of the favorites after leading most of the polls, while the ruling People's Power Party chose Kim Moon-soo as its presidential candidate after several rounds of primaries. And in other news, the ongoing 27th China-Beijing International High-Tech Expo boasts a strong international presence with over 120 companies from more than 30 countries and regions. Running from May 8th to the 11th, the expo theme Science and Technology for a Better Future features over 800 technology companies and institutions from home and abroad. Companies from countries including Singapore and South Korea brought technological products in the fields of artificial intelligence, large models, biomedicine, and intelligent manufacturing, hoping to open up the Chinese market through the expo. The event has created a convenient environment for trade negotiations with more than 10 trade fairs and investment consultation meetings held to promote pragmatic cooperation.
always been very interested in the Chinese market. I mean, obviously due to the size of it. And so we want to be able to get closer to it to really understand it. So we're looking for partners, investors, strategic investors, anyone who can really give us the knowledge of omni-channel distribution in China, so both online and offline.
It's the absolutely perfect opportunity to come here and in the open space see what every company brings here and just come, see and ask everybody on this platform what this technology do. Why is it so special? And that's the reason why we want everyone invite here.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.